This ordinary man chose to leave his homeland and venture to the Philippines to pursue a career in the casino business. His subsequent success became the stuff of legend. Our protagonist, Cha Mu-sik, endured a tremendously difficult childhood. At the tender age of 3, his mother placed him in an orphanage. Food at the orphanage was often scarce, making even filling one's stomach a luxury. Hearing that selling fire ants could earn him money, enough to buy fried chicken, young Mu-sik and his companion, Jong Hyun, ventured into the mountains to raid an ant hill. The consequence was predictable. Stings from the venomous fire ants left them itching all over. An old man at a pharmacy, impressed by their bravery, gave them 201. But this paltry sum wasn't nearly enough to buy a 501 fried chicken. Just then, Mu-sik noticed a group of children playing rock, paper, scissors. His eyes lit up. Why not gamble his money with them? The winner could enjoy the fried chicken. This marked Mu-sik's first foray into the world of gambling. However, after several rounds, he lost everything. The two returned to the orphanage penniless. After an indeterminate number of days living this way, Mu-sik's mother unexpectedly arrived at the orphanage to take him home. His father had been released from prison, and Mu-sik could finally attend school like a normal child. However, his 2 years at the orphanage had left him academically behind. His teacher suggested his father hire a tutor for private lessons. The polite refusal from the tutor plunged the already impoverished family deeper into despair. To afford a tutor, Mu-sik's father resorted to his old ways, setting up an illegal gambling den at home. When he caught someone cheating, he dragged the culprit outside and gave him a beating. Soon after, Mu-sik's father was back in prison for assault, and Mu-sik moved to Daejeon with his mother. To contribute to their living expenses, young Mu-sik began delivering newspapers. Each paper cost 71, with the newspaper company taking 70% and leaving him with a 30% commission. Failing to sell at least 5 papers meant a beating. The quick-witted Mu-sik, eager to maximize his earnings, requested 100 papers, confident in his salesmanship. He was a charming boy with a silver tongue, targeting young women with his sales pitch. He greeted everyone with a cheerful, beautiful lady. Often, a woman would buy a paper, but when it came time to make change, Mu-sik would pretend to be unable to find the correct amount. Most of the women, impatient, would simply leave. This allowed him to earn a higher profit per paper sold. Later, he moved his operation to the crowded cinema, hawking newspapers and offering shoeshines to men. His youthful charm rarely failed, and most couples bought a paper. He quickly sold all 100. This remarkable business acumen foreshadowed his future success. By the year 2000, Cha Mu-sik had established the most prestigious English language academy in Daejeon, attracting the best English teachers in South Korea. One day, his childhood friend, Kai Young, visited him with a lucrative business proposition. Kai Young's company supplied gambling equipment to casinos, boasting annual net profits exceeding 5 billion won, further fueled by the government's strong support for the burgeoning legal gambling industry. Learning about a newly opened legal casino in Busan, Mu-sik, intrigued by gambling since his youth, decided to check it out. They soon arrived at the Busan casino bar. The gambling setup mirrored a traditional casino, with the key difference being that bets were placed with tokens instead of cash. The casino owner confidently explained the rules to Mu-sik, the future casino magnate. Mu-sik wanted to familiarize himself with this new format. After grasping the basics of baccarat, he sat down and played through the night. His goal not to win money, but to understand how the casino profited. After a night of gambling, the business-savvy Cha Mu-sik won $1.9 million. However, an unexpected hiccup occurred during the chip exchange. The casino owner presented him with a voucher for drinks. Mu-sik, encountering this peculiar process for the first time, was bewildered. The owner then exchanged the voucher for a bottle of imported liquor of equivalent value and led them to a nearby liquor buyback establishment to convert it into cash. This entire procedure seemingly legitimized the gambling winnings while also circumventing taxes. The casino took a 10% commission. Mu-sik realized the adage, "The house always wins." Back in the car, having gleaned insight into the casino's profit model, Mu-sik sensed a business opportunity. He decided to replicate the model with his own casino in Daejeon. He first tasked Kai Young with recruiting 12 dealers. Then, he secured a discreet location for the casino. That evening, Mu-sik visited a nightclub. The owner, struggling financially, was behind on rent. Upon learning of Mu-Sik's interest in purchasing the entire establishment, she quoted a price of at least 10 million won. Mu-Sik readily offered 30 million won. The owner immediately accepted. With the location secured and the 12 dealers assembled, Mu-Sik hired contractors to build staff dormitories on the roof, enabling the dealers to work double shifts and keep the casino open 24/7. The casino soon opened its doors. The underground casino thrived, bustling with activity day and night. Mu-Sik had his own business philosophy. He catered exclusively to affluent intellectuals, refusing service to rowdy gangsters prone to causing trouble after losing money. Furthermore, he offered a 10% rebate on losses to disgruntled patrons. This created a harmonious, upscale, and customer-centric gambling environment. Business boomed. Within a month, Mu-Sik earned 10 billion won. His next step was to scout locations for branch expansions. He shared a significant portion of the profits with his partners to mitigate risks, ensuring everyone benefited. Moreover, his generous and righteous nature earned him the loyalty of his employees, offering assistance to anyone facing hardship. He not only amassed wealth, but also garnered widespread support. However, good times rarely last. One day, a peculiar guest arrived at the casino, dominating the tables and winning over 3 million won in just an hour. After exchanging his chips for cash at the front desk and preparing to leave, the National Tax Services Joint Investigation Team stormed in. They accused the casino of tax evasion and moved to shut down Mu-Sik's underground operation. Sang Seo, at the front desk, sensing trouble, grabbed the accounting ledger, placed it in a delivery box, and attempted to slip out unnoticed. But he was stopped at the door and caught red-handed. Sang Seo was merely an employee. The true owner was Cha Mu-Sik. Upon learning of the raid, Mu-Sik immediately planned to flee with Kai Young. However, Kai Young had just deposited the remaining 60 billion won in cash into the bank. Mu-Sik was nearly dumbfounded. He warned Kai Young against accessing the bank funds and handed him a burner phone. The two parted ways, but Kai Young immediately called his wife to discuss their options, unaware that the investigation team was tailing him. He went to a real estate agency, intending to sell his properties at a low price. The investigators followed and arrested him on the spot. Although Kai Young was the registered owner of the casino, team leader Kang suspected Mu-Sik, who had been seen in the car, was the mastermind. They pressed Kai Young for Mu-Sik's whereabouts. Just then, Mu-Sik called. Team leader Kang seized the phone. After revealing his identity, he warned Mu-Sik about the consequences of tax evasion. After learning of Kai Young's arrest, Cha Mu-Sik abruptly hung up the phone before heading to the airport. He first contacted Dong Hai to inquire about securing Kai Young's release. Dong Hai informed him it was impossible, as the National Tax Service's Central Investigation Team was involved, leaving no room for maneuvering. Mu-Sik's only option was to flee the country. He decided to go to the Philippines and reconnect with his friend, Sung Il. Upon arriving in the Philippines, Mu-Sik found his high school friend. Back then, Mu-Sik had been bullied by upperclassmen, leading to a fight that escalated until their parents were called in. They later reconciled and became close friends. After a meal, Sung Il took Mu-Sik to a premier casino in Manila. Gazing at the opulent casino, Mu-Sik realized his own establishment was insignificant in comparison. Sung Il led him to a VIP room, also known as a private room, which individuals or companies could lease from the casino with a deposit, granting them exclusive operating privileges. Sung Il was clearly doing well in Manila. He introduced Mu-Sik to the casino owner. After brief introductions, Mu-Sik, ever the gambler, took a seat at a baccarat table. Having run a casino himself, the game was child's play. That very night, he won 20 billion won, more than his annual earnings from his own casino operation. Newly arrived in Manila and without accommodation, a friend offered him a place to stay. Learning that his friend's son wished to study abroad, Mu-Sik generously gifted him his entire winnings from the previous night. His friend was stunned, nearly moved to tears, and embraced Mu-Sik, almost giving him a kiss, a gesture thankfully averted by fate. Soon after, Mu-Sik lost all his winnings in the casino. His luck took a turn for the worse. He not only lost his recent winnings, but also his savings accumulated from years of running his casino. With Mu-Sik in dire straits, Chairman Min approached him, advising him to stop. But a gambler caught in the downward spiral rarely heeds such advice. Mu-sik humbled himself and asked Chairman Min for another loan. Min generously lent him 10 billion won. He called Jiang Pao, waived the interest, and immediately gave Mu-sik 1 billion won. Just then, an unwelcome group arrived at the casino. A gangster, flanked by his entourage, barged in and informed Chairman Min that the young heir of the Mound construction conglomerate would be visiting the casino for entertainment, expecting an introductory fee from Min. It was a thinly veiled extortion attempt. Seeing Min's predicament, Mu-sik stepped in, pretended to engage with the gangster, and then dismissed Chairman Min. Afterward, he advised Min to avoid such unsavory characters. As Mu-sik departed, Chairman Min was left deep in thought. The 1 billion won borrowed from Chairman Min was a mere drop in the bucket, and Mu-sik quickly lost it all. The following day, Sung-il introduced Mu-sik to another acquaintance, Sang-gu, who, to put it bluntly, was involved in money laundering. Desperate to recoup his losses, Mu-sik took out a high-interest loan from Sang-gu. Although Sang-gu appeared affable, suggesting that even defaulting wouldn't be a problem, Mu-sik knew the realities of the Philippines, a place where laws often held little sway. Failing to repay such a debt would undoubtedly lead to dire consequences. With 2 million won in hand, Mu-sik returned to the casino without hesitation, confident in his system for winning. But his luck had run out, and he lost everything. In just 3 short months, Mu-sik had fallen from grace. Back at his hotel, Mu-sik received a call from the tax service. He was urged to pay the outstanding taxes owed by his underground casino. Failure to comply would result in prosecution, with Interpol pursuing an international arrest warrant, potentially jeopardizing his wife and son back in Korea. Having lost all his savings and deeply in debt, Mu-sik asked his wife to sell their house and join him in the Philippines for a fresh start. But he was then met with the devastating news of his father's critical illness. The hospital had given up on treatment. To arrange his father's funeral, Mu-sik called Dong Hai at the police station to inquire about the case's progress, only to discover that the National Tax Service hadn't yet indicted him. This meant he could freely enter Korea as long as he promised to pay his taxes. Mu-sik hurriedly packed his belongings, preparing to return to Korea. Unbeknownst to him, Sang-gu, the loan shark, had been waiting outside his door. Seeing Sang-gu and his henchmen waiting, Sang-gu tried to start trouble but was pushed back by Mu-sik. Mu-sik grabbed Sang-gu by the neck and pressed him against the door. The henchmen immediately drew their guns and pointed them at Mu-sik's head. Even with 2 guns pointed at him, Mu-sik remained unfazed. He simply didn't take these men seriously. In the end, Mu-sik's powerful demeanor completely intimidated them. Before leaving, Sang-gu gave him a deadline to resolve his gambling debts as soon as possible. Mu-sik decided to bet his house in Korea on one last gamble. The outcome was predictable. He lost his last straw. The once influential boss in Korea now found himself in a break room, observed by Chairman Min, the casino's CEO, for a long time. Min recognized Mu-sik's strength and offered him the management of the VIP room. This would allow him to quickly repay his debts and rebuild his career in a familiar field. Mu-sik was grateful for Chairman Min's offer, but he needed to return home first to deal with his tax issues. Unfortunately, he was out of even the money for travel expenses. He had to swallow his pride and approach Dong Yok. Mu-sik had previously given Dong Yok 10 billion won, presumably Korean won, not us, to send his son abroad for education. Now, he wanted to borrow money from Dong Yok for his trip back to Korea. Dong Yok flatly refused, claiming he had no money. Mu-sik understood that Dong Yok had family expenses. However, when Mu-sik inquired about when Dong Yok's son was leaving for his studies abroad, his wife and son seemed completely unaware of the plan. Mu-sik sensed something was amiss but didn't say anything. In the end, it was Jong Hyan who helped him secure his return to Korea. His first priority upon returning was arranging his father's funeral. While grief-stricken, Mu-sik ensured the funeral was conducted with proper respect. He then addressed his domestic tax issues. The court investigated Kai Young's tax evasion, and a public hearing was held with strong evidence presented by the National Tax Service. Ultimately, Kai Young was sentenced to 5 years in prison and fined 45 billion won. Despite the severe punishment, Kai Young refused to divulge any information related to Mu-sik. Mu-sik went to the National Tax Service. Director Kang, based on the evidence, determined that the revenue from the underground casino run by Chow Moo-sik exceeded 30 billion won, excluding income from gaming machines, and imposed a fine of 8 billion won without hesitation. Chow Moo-sik argued that he hadn't earned that much. Seeing his seemingly sincere demeanor, Director Kang proactively reduced the fine to 4 billion won. However, Chow Moo-sik closed the notebook without even looking at it. He couldn't possibly pay such a large sum and deliberately raised his voice, telling Director Kang, "If the National Tax Service insists on this decision, I have no choice but to accept the final judgment." After some haggling, the National Tax Service agreed to collect only 800 million won, the proverbial cost of a broken bone. The director's assistant questioned the significant reduction in the fine. Director Kang explained that the evidence they had was insufficient, and even if they pursued the case further, their chances of winning in court were slim. It was better to reduce the fine and recover at least some of the owed taxes. Having settled his troubles, Chow Moo-sik returned to the Philippines with the remaining money. He summoned Sang-gu, not only repaying the principal but also a generous amount of interest, emphasizing that business should be based on trust, not guns. Sang-gu listened, nodding repeatedly and apologizing for the incident at the hotel. Chow Moo-sik, not harboring any grudges, offered Sang-gu a partnership in managing the VIP room. Sang-gu's expertise in money laundering would be a valuable asset to the casino. Faced with this generous and trustworthy offer, Sang-gu accepted without hesitation. Before leaving, he advised Chow Moo-sik to steer clear of Dong Yok, warning that Dong Yok didn't consider him a friend, had been bad-mouthing him, and had even scammed him for drug money. Enraged, Chow Moo-sik warned Sang-gu against sowing discord, threatening to rip his mouth apart if he heard such talk again. However, Chow Moo-sik knew that Sang-gu's words held truth. That evening, Chow Moo-sik invited Dong Yok to dinner, intending to confront him. Unexpectedly, Dong Yok, ashamed and enraged, flew into a tirade. Unfazed by the harsh words, Chow Moo-sik picked up a pair of scissors and handed them to Dong Yok, giving him 5 seconds to stab him or be stabbed himself. The cowardly Dong Yok hesitated, unable to act. Chow Moo-sik made his point clear. "Today, we sever our brotherhood." He didn't leave without delivering a final, scathing insult. With his personal issues resolved, Chow Moo-sik dedicated himself to the casino business. A month later, Chairman Min presented him with a dividend of 100 million won. He then produced a stack of ayas, explaining that these were from gamblers who had incurred debts at the casino and then fled back to Korea over the past 10 years. No one had been able to collect these debts. If Chow Moo-sik could recover them, he would become a partner in the casino. Chairman Min didn't hold out much hope, but Chow Moo-sik saw it as an opportunity to prove himself. Upon returning to Korea, Chow Moo-sik first visited a hardware store, purchasing some useful tools. He then tracked down the first debtor. Unarmed and alone, he entered a gangster hangout. The boss mocked him for his audacity, immediately ordering his men to deal with Chow Moo-sik. One of the gangsters attempted to teach Chow Moo-sik a lesson, but in the next instant, a screwdriver appeared in Chow Moo-sik's hand, pressed against the man's face. The other gangsters, intending to intervene, were stopped by a single glare from Chow Moo-sik. Everyone was stunned. Chow Moo-sik sat down on a table, calmly wiping the ketchup from his screwdriver with a piece of sashimi. The boss, completely subdued by Chow Moo-sik's ruthlessness, immediately paid the billion-won debt that was over 10 years overdue. Chow Moo-sik's fearlessness stemmed from his military background. He had served as an intelligence officer in the South Korean Marine Corps, a highly dangerous role involving gathering intelligence on North Korea. He had seen it all. The next day, Chow Moo-sik employed a different tactic. He visited a hair salon and proceeded to act outrageously, washing his feet in the foot bath and even flatulating loudly after removing his trousers. After pushing the owner to the brink, he finally revealed his purpose. Her husband owed Chairman Min money and hadn't been reachable, so he had resorted to disrupting her business. The terrified women in the salon feared the impact on their livelihood. The owner immediately called her husband, and the debt was promptly transferred. Chow Moo-sik systematically collected all the outstanding debts. Chairman Min, impressed by his efficiency and effectiveness, frequently praised him to his associates. Consequently, he entrusted Chow Moo-sik with the full management of the VIP room. Not only did Chow Moo-sik excel in his role, But his old friend Sang-gu, through his recommendation, also became an executive in the VIP room. Even Sang-seo, back in Korea, introduced his friend Seo Tae-seok to Cha Moo-sik, hoping he would look out for him. As if on cue, a man unfurling a mat approached Seo Tae-seok, Sang-seo's acquaintance. It turned out Seo Tae-seok's brothel had been raided by the police, forcing him to flee to the Philippines. Cha Moo-sik asked him to come to his office the following day. Out of a sense of obligation, Cha Moo-sik offered Seo Tae-seok 10,000 won, hoping to be rid of him. However, Seo Tae-seok, ever the opportunist, pushed for a job at the casino, requesting control over some VIP rooms. His audacity annoyed Cha Moo-sik, who promptly ridiculed him. At that moment, Chairman Min entered the office, looking distressed. Cha Moo-sik learned from Sang-gu that Chairman Min had been threatened by a local gang leader demanding 50,000 won in protection money, or else his men would break his legs. Chairman Min had been forced to kneel and beg for mercy. Furious that the man he respected had been treated this way, Cha Moo-sik stormed to the hotel where the gangsters were staying. He unexpectedly found his brother, Sung-il, there as well. Ignoring his brother's presence, Cha Moo-sik directly confronted the gang leader, warning him to leave Chairman Min alone. He declared that Chairman Min had welcomed him during his darkest hour, and he would defend him even at the cost of his own life. He threatened to resort to Filipino methods if such an incident occurred again. The gang leader scoffed at Cha Moo-sik's threats. However, acknowledging his loyalty, he offered him a chance. If Cha Moo-sik could drink a bottle of liquor in one gulp, he would leave Chairman Min alone. Determined to resolve the situation, Cha Moo-sik accepted the challenge and downed the entire bottle. The gang leader, impressed by his courage and bravado, ordered his guards to stand aside. The matter was settled peacefully. As soon as Cha Moo-sik left the room, his stomach revolted, and he vomited violently into a nearby planter. True to his word, the gang leader ceased harassing Chairman Min. Cha Moo-sik's defense of Chairman Min earned him the latter's complete trust. The casino flourished under his management, generating 70 billion won in profit within just 10 years. While Seo Tae-seok might have assumed they were master gamblers, they hadn't earned a single penny from gambling itself. Their success stemmed from Cha Moo-sik's innovative chip strategy. The average casino commission for a jackpot was 1.2%, but Cha Moo-sik offered 1.6%. This meant a player betting 1 million won would receive 16,000 won in commission. However, embedded within that 16,000 won was 0.1% worth of hotel vouchers, redeemable for cash discounts at the hotel. Cha Moo-sik had created a secondary business in these vouchers. At the time, Cha Moo-sik booked an average of 150 rooms per day, nearly 5,000 rooms per month. He exchanged these vouchers at a 40% discount, using them to offset cash payments from customers. This allowed him to pocket the 40% difference. Unable to use all the vouchers himself, Cha Moo-sik extended the benefits to his employees. Top-tier buffet meals at the hotel, normally beyond the reach of locals, became a regular perk for his staff. One day, Cha Moo-sik encountered an important figure in the restaurant. He immediately recognized him as the private secretary to the Philippine president. Seizing the opportunity, knowing that the secretary held weekly conferences for high-ranking officials, Cha Moo-sik proposed hosting the conferences at the hotel. The secretary initially balked at the cost, but Cha Moo-sik offered to cover the expenses himself, using his surplus of vouchers as a networking tool. At the start of the seminar, the attendance was sparse, with only the mayor and the chief of police present. Gradually, however, the number of participants began to swell. Figures from the military, political, and business spheres flocked to the daily meetings. The nearby restaurant was perpetually packed, and even the president's son humbled himself to attend. Police escorts clearing the way became a regular occurrence. By this point, Cha Moo-sik's name was known to practically everyone in the Philippines. One day, the chief secretary introduced a prominent figure to Cha Moo-sik. Daniel was a legend in the gambling world. A single word from him could reportedly decide a president's fate. Daniel was currently involved in the Kali's project, aiming to transform 2 resort hotels into the largest casino in the Philippines. He needed someone with Cha Moo-sik's capabilities to help smooth the way and cultivate connections. Naturally, Cha Moo-sik agreed without hesitation. With the backing of the gambling king, Daniel, Cha Moo-sik now traveled with a police escort. What shocked everyone was that Cha Mu-sik's influence had surpassed even Chairman Min's. However, he never forgot his roots and always remained respectful towards Chairman Min. Unexpectedly, a few months later, the Philippine presidency changed hands, leading to a major upheaval in the political and business landscape. The network Cha Mu-sik had painstakingly built significantly dwindled, and the regular gatherings ceased. Meanwhile, Chairman Min leveraged his connections to persuade a wealthy second-generation heir to lend him money to build a luxury hotel in Collies. Cha Mu-sik's group also abandoned their Manila operations, joining the newly built casino in Collies. Chairman Min, showcasing his formidable social circle in Collies, even managed to impress the ultra-rich Chairman Ko from South Korea. Upon witnessing Chairman Min's presence at the new casino's grand opening, Chairman Ko impulsively placed all his chips on a single bet. Standing behind the casino, Chairman Min watched in astonishment. The dealer looked for confirmation and, upon receiving it, prepared to deal. At that very moment, the woman accompanying Chairman Ko, after observing the situation, abruptly called a halt and retrieved all his chips, seemingly having lost interest. The dealer dealt the cards, revealing a 7 for the house. Chairman Ko was relieved he hadn't bet. The woman beside him, after winning with an 8, chided Chairman Ko for not following through with the bet. Frustrated, Chairman Ko stormed off. Kai and Chairman Min partnered to open a new casino in Collies. Opening day was bustling with gamblers. However, on that very day, Jeong Pal had a rendezvous with So Young, a hotel receptionist. The two wasted no time in getting intimate. Elsewhere, the wealthy heir who had lent money to Chairman Min boasted to Yo Yoon-ki, the consul at the South Korean embassy, about his investment in the new Collies casino. Yo Yoon-ki, wanting a piece of the action, remarked that anyone opening a casino these days had shady gang connections, and he wouldn't stand a chance investing alone. He proposed a partnership, leveraging his position as consul to protect the heir from any potential threats. Just like that, Yo Yoon-ki secured a stake without any investment. The heir invited Yoon-ki for drinks that evening, offering him anything he desired. After the arrangements were made, Yoon-ki excused himself to the restroom and discreetly followed the hostess. He inquired about the evening's expenses. She estimated at least $1 million. Yoon-ki instructed her to tell the heir the cost was $2 million, pocketing the extra $1 million for himself. Yoon-ki exploited every opportunity. Instead of protecting the rights of his countrymen abroad, he sought to exploit them for personal gain. The next day, a little bee brought in a high roller. Little bees referred to those who had lost everything in the casino but couldn't leave, eking out a living by introducing new clients through intermediaries back in Korea. Mr. H. Wang, who ran an electronics factory in Korea, arrived in the Philippines. The little bee introduced Mr. H. Wang to Cha Mu-sik. Cha Mu-sik had already investigated Mr. H. Wang's background and finances, learning he was worth around 40 billion won. Upon discovering Mr. H. Wang and his family were staying in an economy room, Cha Mu-sik immediately called the hotel and upgraded them to the presidential suite, earning Mr. H. Wang's deep gratitude. Knowing Mr. H. Wang enjoyed daily golf, Cha Mu-sik joined him, purposely hitting errant shots to flatter his guest. Days filled with dining and entertainment left Mr. H. Wang thoroughly delighted. The day before his departure, Mr. H. Wang expressed interest in visiting Cha Mu-sik's casino. Cha Mu-sik initially feigned reluctance, stating it wasn't appropriate to gamble with family present. He played the role of the concerned friend, advising against gambling and its potential for ruin. However, Mr. H. Wang's insistence, coupled with the little bee's prodding, eventually swayed Cha Mu-sik, who agreed to a brief visit, cautioning Mr. H. Wang to play small and avoid heavy losses. He then escorted Mr. H. Wang to the casino. The little bee's intermediary role was complete. Outside, Philip, one of Cha Mu-sik's men, handed the little bee his finder's fee. The little bee, once a wealthy professor who thought himself above others, had, like many gamblers, lost everything. Unable to leave the casino, he became a client recruiter. After dismissing the little bee, Philip encountered So Young. Both being Korean expats, they conversed easily. Philip, smitten with So Young at first sight, even showed off his chest tattoo. He asked if Jeong Pal was also romantically interested in So Young. So Young flatly denied any such relationship, much to Philip's relief. Back in the casino, Mr. H. Wang played cautiously, betting only a few dozen dollars at a time. Cha Mu-sik grew frustrated. He had cultivated this high roller, only to find him so timid. At Mr. H. Wang's current pace, $1 million would last him a week. Cha Mu-sik, in contrast, had once lost $10 million without blinking, the sum vanishing in a mere 5 seconds. Impatient, Cha Mu-sik excused himself. But upon arriving home, he received a call from a subordinate informing him Mr. H. Wang had lost $1 million and was asking for a loan to recoup his losses. This immediately piqued Cha Mu-sik's interest. While the current loss was only $1 million, Cha Mu-sik was confident Mr. H. Wang could lose $10 billion. It was just a matter of time. Returning to the casino, Cha Mu-sik found Mr. H. Wang despondent, having lost all his money, standing blankly at the table. Mr. H. Wang asked for $1 million loan, promising to repay it upon returning to Korea. Cha Mu-sik feigned concern, suggesting he quit while he was behind. But Mr. H. Wang was determined to continue. With mock reluctance, Cha Mu-sik instructed Philip to fetch 10 million in chips from the cashier. Mr. H. Wang was stunned. Cha Mu-sik then proceeded to place the entire 10 million on a single bet, further astonishing Mr. H. Wang by inviting him to reveal the cards himself, acting as if it were nothing. Mr. H. Wang, tense and fidgety, watched as they won. Then they won again and again, completely shifting Mr. H. Wang's perspective. After several rounds, Mr. H. Wang's greed grew exponentially. Cha Mu-sik again excused himself, leaving Mr. H. Wang with all his winnings, instructing him to use them if he lost his own money. He told Mr. H. Wang to repay only the principal if he won, and if he lost, to consider it a gift. With newfound confidence, Mr. H. Wang proceeded to win another $10 million that very night. Not long after, Philip reported to Chairman H. Wang that he had won a considerable sum of money. Cha Mu-sik knew it was time to stop. Besides returning the principal to Cha Mu-sik, Chairman H. Wang also won a brand new Mitsubishi. The reason for stopping was to leave Chairman H. Wang wanting more. Not only that, but Cha Mu-sik also took Chairman H. Wang to a bar for drinks. When he learned Chairman H. Wang was returning to Korea the next day, Cha Mu-sik checked his ticket. Seeing it was an economy class ticket, he immediately called and upgraded it to business class for Chairman H. Wang. Such meticulous care captivated Chairman H. Wang. Only a few days after returning home, Chairman H. Wang called Cha Mu-sik to say that he wanted to come to Collies for a few days of rest. Everything was going according to Cha Mu-sik's plan. Cha Mu-sik booked a complimentary first-class ticket for Chairman H. Wang, a free presidential suite, and even gifted him a set of golf clubs. What made Mu-sik even happier was that as soon as Chairman H. Wang landed, he was eager to borrow money to go to the casino, and he immediately asked for 100 million won. Chairman H. Wang had won big at Mu-sik's casino twice in a row, tasting the sweet victory of gambling. After that, he no longer cared about his business back home, immersing himself daily in the thrill of gambling. That same day, Philip and So-young planned to have dinner together after work, but they ran into Chairman Ko along the way. Chairman Ko generously invited them to lunch. Through their conversation, So-young learned that Chairman Ko was the owner of Pacella Cosmetic. She immediately began to flatter him, showering him with compliments which Chairman Ko greatly enjoyed. That evening, Philip and So-young created their own waves in a sea-less landscape, meaning they had sex. Afterwards, So-young asked Philip many questions about Chairman Ko. Suddenly, the phone rang. So-young picked up the phone but didn't answer, because it was Jeong Pal calling. At that moment, Jeong Pal was standing downstairs holding roses, looking up at the light in So-young's apartment. Jeong Pal took a long drag on his cigarette, seemingly understanding something, then threw the roses in the trash and left. Chairman H. Wang's appetite on the other side grew larger and larger. In less than 2 months, he had lost 20 billion won at the casino. His entire mental state was completely different from before. Cha Mu-sik advised Chairman H. Wang to stop gambling, but Chairman H. Wang was now consumed with thoughts of how to quickly recover his losses. To recoup his losses, Mr. H. Wang begged Cha Mu-sik for another $1 billion, promising to repay it within 10 days. Unexpectedly, Cha Mu-sik scoffed. "You dare gamble with a measly 20 billion? I thought you were the chairman of a major corporation worth hundreds of billions." He then ordered Mr. H. Wang to sign a promissory note. If the $1 billion wasn't returned within 10 days, Mr. H. Wang would have to repay 10 times the amount and face criminal charges. Desperate to turn his luck around, Mr. H. Wang disregarded the harsh terms and readily agreed. However, 2 hours later, he had lost everything. He frantically intercepted Cha Mu-sik, lying that he had sold his company in Korea and, after settling all his debts, still had some money left. He hoped to borrow more from Cha Mu-sik for another chance. Cha Mu-sik, recognizing Mr. H. Wang's desperation as beyond saving, pulled out $2,000 from his wallet and told him to get something to eat, essentially dismissing him. At this point, Mr. H. Wang finally realized he'd been ensnared by the casino, designed to drain his assets and leave him ruined. That same day, Kyung-young suddenly appeared at the casino. He told Cha Mu-sik that the casino had previously helped 2 wanted Korean criminals launder money. They had fled to the Philippines with $50 billion, intending to invest in Cha Mu-sik's casino, offering a $5 billion down payment. The next day, Kyung-young picked up the 2 investors from the airport, greeting them with exaggerated enthusiasm. They were driven away in a luxurious but somewhat dated car, accompanied by a Philippines police motorcycle escort. That evening, the clients were brought to a bar to meet Cha Mu-sik. When the topic of the $50 billion investment came up, Kyung-young became visibly nervous and began to vaguely change the subject. This alerted Cha Mu-sik to something amiss. He pulled Kyung-young aside to the restroom for questioning. It turned out Kyung-young had deceived the clients. They believed their entire sum had been deposited into Cha Mu-sik's casino, but Kyung-young had secretly diverted it to his own casino account in Sitana, only transferring the $5 billion down payment to Cha Mu-sik. Furious, Cha Mu-sik demanded Kyung-young transfer the money to him for safekeeping. Kyung-young argued that the clients were wanted criminals and wouldn't be able to open local bank accounts. He claimed that even if they took the money, they couldn't do anything to him because the Philippines was lawless, and such dealings were commonplace. Cha Mu-sik's words fell on deaf ears. The following day, the sisters sensed the previous night's deal was a scam. Cha Mu-sik seemed oblivious to the money, leading her to suspect Kyung-young had conned them. She immediately sought him out to demand their money back. Overheard by Kyung-young's men, the news was quickly relayed to him. He confronted the siblings, threatening them to stay quiet. However, the sisters slapped him across the face. Enraged, Kyung-young retaliated, and soon after, the siblings were murdered and buried in a sugarcane field. That night, guilt and fear consumed Kyung-young. He sought out Cha Mu-sik, fearing arrest, and pleaded for help. Cha Mu-sik assured him that with his connections in the Philippines, as long as the local police didn't investigate, he would be safe. He arranged for a black van to transport Kyung-young to Myanmar to lie low. But upon seeing the imposing driver, Kyung-young panicked, believing he was being taken to a secluded spot to be dealt with. He frantically backpedaled, claiming he hadn't harmed the siblings and that it was all a joke. Understanding Kyung-young's fear, Cha Mu-sik let him drive off. The very next day, Philippine police discovered the bodies of the 2 Korean nationals in the sugarcane field. Local authorities contacted Seung-hoon, a Korean police officer stationed in the Philippines, requesting his assistance in identifying the victims. As they arrived at the scene, another car pulled up, revealing Cha Mu-sik. His connections within the police department had alerted him to the discovery. Wanting to assess the situation, Cha Mu-sik accompanied the officers to the field. After careful examination, he recognized it as the burial site of the siblings. He lamented Kyung-young's sloppy work, choosing hard soil and not burying them deep enough, leading to their discovery by local farmers. Meanwhile, Sang-gu called, reporting that Kyung-young's casino account in Sitana held only 30 billion, far short of the expected 50. Kyung-young had clearly pocketed the difference. Cha Mu-sik ordered Sang-gu to immediately freeze the account. On his end, Seung-hoon's online investigation revealed the victims had recently arrived in the Philippines. His experience suggested that crimes within the Korean community there were almost always committed by other Koreans. He began his investigation in the Korean district, locating the bar where the siblings had last been seen. Questioning the owner about their identities, he was interrupted by Kyung-young entering with his girlfriend. The owner identified Kyung-young as having dined with the victims, apparently discussing a casino investment. Faced with Seung-hoon's questioning, Kyung-young offered evasive answers before making his way to his car. As Seung-hoon pressed further, Kyung-young impatiently told him to get lost. Seung-hoon quickly noted the license plate, suspecting a dispute over a casino investment gone wrong. Seung-hoon arrived at the casino where Kyung-young worked. So-young, a hotel receptionist, led him to Cha Moo-sik. Everyone's attention was focused on Chairman Ko, who was placing a bet. Spotting So-young, Chairman Ko, seemingly delighted, wagered $200 million. The dealer revealed the cards. Chairman Ko had lost. He gestured So-young over, asking the color of her underwear. Slightly embarrassed, she whispered, "Red." Chairman Ko then pushed $200 million in chips onto red. Cha Moo-sik and Chairman Min watched nervously as the dealer dealt the cards. Chairman Ko, a billionaire heading a massive Korean conglomerate, was gambling on a whim. The dealer's hand showed 8 points. Chairman Ko flipped over a 3. He then peeked at the corner of his other card and kissed So-young on the cheek. The second card revealed a 6. He nonchalantly tossed it down. Everyone congratulated Chairman Ko on her win. Cha Moo-sik, though likely frustrated, forced a congratulatory clap. After Chairman Ko instructed Cha Moo-sik to launder her winnings and transfer them to her Korean account, she cheerfully took So-young back to her room to celebrate. Once they left, Chairman Min consoled Cha Moo-sik, reminding him that $200 million was just a month's revenue for the casino. Despite the significant loss, Cha Moo-sik reluctantly complied to maintain the casino's reputation. However, an unexpected problem arose during the transfer. So-young had vanished with Chairman Ko's $200 million. Cha Moo-sik, upon receiving the news, rushed back to the casino to apologize to Chairman Ko. He argued that the issue lay with the hotel's reception management, which was separate from the casino. Money transfers were typically handled by casino management, but So-young, chosen personally by Chairman Ko, was the one who absconded with the funds. He essentially claimed the casino was also a victim. Cha Moo-sik ultimately insisted the casino bore no responsibility for the incident. This irresponsible explanation infuriated Chairman Ko, sparking a furious outburst. Despite his earlier stance, Cha Moo-sik knew he couldn't ignore the situation. The scandal would damage the casino's reputation. To recover the substantial sum, Cha Moo-sik's men went to So-young's residence. Upon arrival, however, they received intel. So-young was already in Korea. It turned out she was a con artist with a prior record, having swindled $700 million from a Korean entertainment venue before fleeing to the Philippines to avoid arrest. So-young's apartment was empty, her passport gone. Cha Moo-sik ordered Jeong Pal to contact travel agencies and intercept So-young if she attempted to book a flight. As Jeong Pal turned to make the call, Cha Moo-sik stopped him, questioning his involvement. It was common knowledge within the casino that Jeong Pal and So-young were having an affair. Feeling betrayed by his friend's suspicion, Jeong Pal retorted, "If you find any evidence linking me to this, then you can tear me to shreds." He then stormed off. His words unnerved Philip, who was lurking nearby, prompting him to quickly leave as well. This piqued Cha Moo-sik's curiosity. He noticed Philip had seemingly slipped something into a tissue box. Inside, he found a lighter. He recognized it as his own, having given it to Philip earlier after smoking. It appeared there was a secret between Philip and So-young. Meanwhile, So-young, with the stolen money, had reached Manila. At a hotel, the receptionist asked for her ID. Fearing discovery, So-young feigned forgetfulness and slipped the receptionist some cash, successfully securing a room. Once she felt safe, she called her critically ill mother, telling her she had earned enough money for her surgery in the Philippines and would fly back to Korea in the morning. The next day, So-young visited a local money exchanger, intending to convert the $200 million into Korean won for transfer. Upon hearing the amount, the exchanger explained he didn't have such a large cash reserve and asked So-young to make a partial deposit and return the following day. With Chairman Ko and the casino on her trail, So-young couldn't afford to wait. She offered the exchanger a $30,000 bribe to complete the transfer within 2 hours. Once he agreed, So-young left. To test his suspicions, Cha Moo-sik bribed the landlord to gain access to Philip's apartment. Inside, he not only found intimate photos of Philip and So-young, but also discovered their passports tucked away in a closet, ready for a getaway. This treacherous couple was clearly in cahoots. Furious, Cha Moo-sik received a call from the money laundering boss. Upon receiving the news, the boss called Philip, ordering him to find So-young, who was on her way to Manila, and bring her back by any means necessary. Philip panicked, realizing his scheme had been exposed. So Young had also stolen his car and driven it to the money exchange location in Manila. Desperate, Philip tracked So Young down, urging her to return the $200 million. He even knelt, begging Chairman Ko for forgiveness. So Young, however, declared the money enough for a lifetime of luxury anywhere and refused to return it, adding that the transfer back to Korea would be complete in 2 hours. Philip was exasperated by So Young's naivety. The entire Philippine money laundering operation was controlled by Cha Moo-sik. There was no way they could escape with the money. At that moment, a policeman knocked on their car window. Thinking it was a parking violation, Philip rolled down the window to apologize. Instead, the man pulled out a gun. Both Philip and So Young were shot dead on the spot. The man quickly moved to the trunk, transferred the $200 million to accomplices in another vehicle, and casually walked away in broad daylight. The entire execution took less than a minute. Sang-gu, watching from a distance in his car, was stunned. He only saw a black man wearing sunglasses take the money. He rushed over to check on his friend, Philip, and So Young, only to find them both dead. He frantically fled the scene. At the morgue, Sang-gu recounted the events. The killer seemed to know about the $200 million in So Young's car. But Cha Moo-sik had known about So Young's whereabouts first. Sang-gu and Jeong Pal both suspected Cha Moo-sik was the mastermind behind everything. Cha Moo-sik, however, was only concerned about the police investigation. Sang-gu assured him he hadn't said anything. Relieved, Cha Moo-sik told them he'd had Mr. Seok handle the situation and asked them not to mention it to anyone. Despite So Young's betrayal, Jeong Pal felt remorse for her death. Philip was Sang-gu's close friend. The inconsistencies of the situation bothered both men, and they seemed to reach a silent understanding. That night, a mysterious man met with Cha Moo-sik. It was the same man who had taken the $200 million from So Young's car earlier that day, also the personal bodyguard of casino boss Daniel. It appeared Cha Moo-sik had orchestrated everything. Back at his villa, Cha Moo-sik stashed the $200 million, having no intention of returning it to Chairman Ko. At his level of power, $200 million wasn't worth the trouble of eliminating someone. It was a show of force. Anyone who betrayed him would pay dearly. With that matter settled, Cha Moo-sik turned his attention to finding Kyung Young. He took Jeong Pal to Kyung Young's apartment but found car keys inside. Jeong Pal discovered a piece of ketchup-stained cloth in the car. Cha Moo-sik also located and copied surveillance footage. To understand what happened, they drove to the victim's residence, finding the living room in disarray. After a thorough search, they discovered a briefcase hidden in the luggage containing transfer instructions. Kyung Young had also planned to abscond with the money. Cha Moo-sik wasted no time. He handed the collected evidence to the police, cooperated fully, led them to Kyung Young's apartment, and provided the incriminating video and the ketchup-stained cloth. A simple blood-type match would reveal the truth. He even vividly recreated the crime scene. Cha Moo-sik, with his North Korean intelligence background, displayed remarkable investigative skills. After presenting all the evidence, Cha Moo-sik returned to the car with Jeong Pal. Confused, Jeong Pal asked why Cha Moo-sik had helped the police, seemingly incriminating himself. Cha Moo-sik replied, "Weeds must be pulled out by the roots. Those who betray me meet a bad end." At that moment, Jeong Pal understood the terrifying power Cha Moo-sik wielded in the Philippines. The camera shifts to the red light district of the Philippines. A woman, new to the streets, sits in a bar. Shortly after her arrival, Cha Moo-sik drives up, offering her $10 to $20,000. She gets into his car. They arrive at a hotel. The woman wants to shower first, but Cha Moo-sik tells her not to rush. She takes out her phone. Cha Moo-sik then urges her to shower, which she does. As soon as she's in the bathroom, Cha Moo-sik takes her phone and unlocks it, having memorized her passcode while she was using it. He successfully accesses the phone, searching for information about Kyung Young's girlfriend. After obtaining the information he needs, Cha Moo-sik leaves a large sum of money in the woman's bag and departs. Meanwhile, Detective Seung-hoon receives a call. Kyung Young's brother has been arrested and, during interrogation, revealed Kyung Young as the mastermind behind an assault. As Seung-hoon hangs up, he's approached by Filipino police. They inform him of another murdered Korean found the previous day. Seung-hoon is shocked to see the photos on the screen. The victims are an employee and the receptionist from Cha Moo-sik's casino. Elsewhere, using the woman's phone and photos Rose posted online, Cha Moo-sik pinpoints Kyung-young and his girlfriend's location, the Paradise Resort. Seung-hoon, having just finished a workout, sits on his balcony, smoking a cigarette. Suddenly, there's a knock at his door. He opens it to find the hallway empty, except for a note on the floor. Kyung-young is at Paradise Resort. The next day, a suspicious Seung-hoon leads local police to the resort to apprehend Kyung-young. As a resident officer, Seung-hoon lacks the authority to make arrests and can only assist and cooperate with local law enforcement. To avoid alerting Kyung-young, Mark and Seung-hoon decide to split up and approach from both sides. Mark runs into Rose. Forced to improvise, he attempts to arrest her. Kyung-young flees. Mark and Seung-hoon give chase. Cornered, Kyung-young pulls out a gun. Seung-hoon tackles him to the ground, narrowly averting a shootout. Kyung-young is apprehended and taken into custody. At this point, Cha Moo-sik, pretending to be airport personnel, arrives to take Deok-bi to the airport. Jeong-pal and Sang-gu are confused by Cha Moo-sik's actions. Before leaving, Cha Moo-sik gives them a suggestive wiggle. In the car, Deok-bi realizes they're not heading to the airport. As he's about to question the driver, two armed men emerge from the trunk, pointing guns at his knees. Deok-bi is taken to an abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. Cha Moo-sik gives him 2 hours to repay the debt, threatening to kill him and dump his body in the ocean. Deok-bi, still unaware of the gravity of the situation, remains defiant, insisting he'll pay upon returning to Korea. Cha Moo-sik, amused by Deok-bi's bravado, instructs his men to spread a tarp on the ground to avoid making a mess. Terrified, Deok-bi immediately understands the situation. Cha Moo-sik remarks that nobody's money comes easy and leaves the warehouse, instructing his men to keep a close watch on Deok-bi. The next day, Cha Moo-sik returned to the warehouse to find a heavily tattooed Deok-bi, tearful and snot-nosed, crying like a child. Cha Moo-sik offered him 2 phones, one to transfer the money, the other to call the police. Deok-bi frantically called family and friends, begging for help to gather the funds. His usual contacts hung up on him. Desperate, he pleaded with his father to sell their land, urging him to transfer whatever he could to Cha Moo-sik's account. However, his father, a Vietnam War veteran, contacted the Korean embassy, reporting Deok-bi's kidnapping in the Philippines. Yoon-ki at the embassy, learning Deok-bi was at the B10 hotel, called Cha Moo-sik. Meanwhile, Yoon-ki, entertained by a wealthy socialite, badmouthed Cha Moo-sik to Seo Tae-seok. Seo Tae-seok, long resentful of Cha Moo-sik's control, slammed his fist on the table, boasting that Cha Moo-sik was nothing before him and would always bow down. He further claimed the casino would collapse without his management. The scene shifts to the booming B10 casino. Cha Moo-sik and Chairman Min, flush with cash, had quickly transformed it into one of the most luxurious casinos attached to a high-end hotel in the Philippines. Chairman Min was preparing to hand over management of the new hotel to Seo Tae-seok. Cha Moo-sik extended his hand in congratulations, but Seo Tae-seok snubbed him, turning away. Cha Moo-sik noticed the slight. Seo Tae-seok then pointedly asked Jeong-pal why he hadn't greeted him. Jeong-pal merely nodded. Holding a grudge, Seo Tae-seok later confronted Jeong-pal and roughed him up. Noticing the injuries on Jeong-pal's face, Cha Moo-sik asked if Seo Tae-seok was responsible. Upon confirmation, Cha Moo-sik summoned Seo Tae-seok to his office, reminding him of his place and stating that if it weren't for Chairman Min's protection, he'd be scavenging in the streets. Seo Tae-seok, ungrateful and emboldened by his gangster background, disregarded Cha Moo-sik's warning and shoved Jeong-pal. Sang-gu swiftly pinned him to the desk. Cha Moo-sik issued a final warning. "If I see you in the Philippines again, I'll make you disappear permanently." Humiliated, Seo Tae-seok stormed out of the casino. Later, at a company team building event, everyone enjoyed a friendly game of basketball. Suddenly, Cha Moo-sik received a call from the local police. The Korean embassy had requested his arrest, authorizing the use of deadly force if he resisted. Yoon-ki, still harboring resentment, intended to intimidate Cha Moo-sik and teach him a lesson. Unfazed, Cha Moo-sik called Yoon-ki, revealing he knew where Yoon-ki lived and where his daughter attended school. He gave Yoon-ki 72 hours to reconsider his actions, threatening severe consequences otherwise. He then hung up. Yoon-ki's face hardened. He grabbed his jacket and rushed home. But to everyone's surprise, that night, Siok broke into Cha Mu-sik's villa with a gun. Seeing Cha Mu-sik asleep in his bed, Siok pointed the gun at his head. In reality, Cha Mu-sik wasn't sleeping at all. He said, "If you dare, then go ahead and shoot me. I'm giving you the chance." Siok hesitated. Cha Mu-sik got up and made a swift move. Caught off guard, Siok had his gun snatched away. Cha Mu-sik told him, "Guns are for shooting, not for threatening people." He gave Siok an ultimatum. "If you haven't left the Philippines within 72 hours, I will settle the score with you." Siok, humiliated, still disregarded Cha Mu-sik's words. The next day, Cha Mu-sik's older brother, Sung-il, visited the casino. He hoped Cha Mu-sik wouldn't threaten Yoonki's family. Cha Mu-sik, deeply respectful of his brother, assured him he would handle the situation appropriately. Sung-il then mentioned he had been having some trouble at his own casino. The casino he operated in Manila was about to renew its contract. The triads wanted to take over the casinos and profit from them, so they frequently sent thugs to cause trouble. Sung-il hoped Cha Mu-sik could use his connections in the Philippines to resolve this issue. The triads were a notorious gang in the Philippines. Cha Mu-sik said he would think of a way. Before leaving, Sung-il complained, "If only I had a few fierce enforcers in the casino, then the triads wouldn't be so arrogant." Jeong Pao, overhearing this, mentioned someone who could do the job and led Sung-il to Siok. Jeong Pao explained that if Siok didn't leave the Philippines within 72 hours, Cha Mu-sik would definitely hire assassins to dump him in the ocean for the fish. The only person likely to take him in now was Sung-il. Siok, stubborn, still failed to grasp the gravity of the situation. Sung-il simply handed him a business card, saying, "If you really have nowhere else to go, come work for me." The 72-hour deadline quickly approached. That evening, Cha Mu-sik sent Sang-gu and some men to check if Siok had left. Seeing them armed, Siok took off running. Cha Mu-sik hadn't actually wanted to harm him, only to drive him out of the Philippines. Siok escaped to Manila. He knelt before Sung-il, hoping to find a place under his wing. Just then, Chairman Ko arrived at the bar. They talked about the time they won $200 million at the Bond Casino. When it came time to transfer the winnings, a casino employee had absconded with the money. The police investigation yielded no results. Ultimately, the $200 million vanished into thin air. With Chairman Ko present, Sung-il couldn't refuse her and reluctantly accepted Siok. In a flash, Siok reported to Chairman Ko. He suggested Cha Mu-sik might have been behind the whole scheme. Chairman Ko still harbored resentment towards Cha Mu-sik. To recover the $200 million, Chairman Ko tasked Siok with returning to the Bond Casino to find evidence for her. She even promised a $100 million reward. Siok readily agreed and immediately returned to the Bond Casino. He used all his savings, but his luck was truly terrible. In the final round, he bet all his chips. At that moment, Yong Le, sitting next to him, bought in and bet on the banker. Seeing this, Siok lamented that not only was his luck bad, but he was also being used as a betting beacon. He disdainfully revealed his cards an 8, not a bad hand. Only a 9 could beat him. Then, it was Yong Le's turn to reveal his cards. He slowly flipped them over, revealing a 9. Losing money wasn't the worst part. Being used by someone else was even more infuriating. Siok suppressed his anger, but fate had other plans. As he was about to leave, Yong Le was standing right in front of him. When the elevator doors opened, Yong Le casually scrolled through his phone, completely oblivious to who was behind him. Siok snapped, shoving Yong Le into the elevator. His pent-up rage exploded. A brawl erupted inside the elevator. Blinded by fury, Siok was just getting the upper hand on Yong Le when the elevator doors opened again. Waiting for Yong Le were several of his triad buddies. A chaotic fight ensued, and the elevator inexplicably went back up from the first floor to the third. Cha Mu-sik, informed of the fight at the casino, rushed back. He arrived to see Siok, and his blood boiled. Siok was in a frenzy, ignoring all pleas for reason. Yong Le shoved Cha Mu-sik aside and continued firing his gun. Both sides were at a standstill. Local police quickly intervened with a large contingent of armed officers. The situation was swiftly brought under control. Siok was apprehended hiding behind the bar. Those who knew Cha Mu-sik understood he wouldn't let this go easily. Just as Siok resigned himself to jail, the police received a call from the chief of police. Before Seung-hoon could react, the police car made a U-turn. Soon, the car arrived at a deserted junkyard where Cha Mu-sik, who had made the call to the chief, was waiting. Cha Mu-sik produced a bag of money and handed it to the police, who accepted it without hesitation. This blatant act of bribery infuriated Seung-hoon. He loudly condemned Cha Mu-sik for his influence and audacity in bribing the police. Cha Mu-sik told him to understand the situation before speaking. "This is the Philippines. If you want to hold me accountable, you have to ask the Philippine president if he agrees." Powerless against Cha Mu-sik's authority, Seung-hoon could only warn him not to go too far before leaving the scene. Abandoned by everyone, Siok was completely panicked. Cha Mu-sik pointed to a nearby vat of sulfuric acid. "That steaming acid will make you disappear from this world without a trace." Faced with Siok's pleas, Cha Mu-sik softened. He ordered his men, "When you've had enough fun, let him go." He could use all sorts of methods to torment a small fry like Siok. But with an embassy official like Hun Kai, Cha Mu-sik could only offer a sincere apology. However, Hun Kai was not grateful in the slightest, even acting a bit arrogant. He thought Cha Mu-sik was truly afraid and continued to berate him. Cha Mu-sik, losing his patience, retorted, "If I'm interested, I can find out anything about anyone." He then revealed Hun Kai's past, exposing him for being wanted for loan sharking. That was Cha Mu-sik's character. "Treat me with respect, and I'll return the favor." Now, the bad blood between them remained unresolved. At this point, Chairman Ko also dispatched someone from Korea to investigate Cha Mu-sik. She requested the Filipino mafia boss hire a group of assassins. That night, the mafia boss fabricated a reason to meet with Cha Mu-sik. Unaware of the trap, Cha Mu-sik went to the meeting alone. Upon entering the restaurant, he was ambushed by a group of armed men. They demanded Cha Mu-sik hand over Chairman Ko's $200 million, even threatening to take his fingers one by one. Cha Mu-sik understood that if news of him stealing a customer's chips spread, he would likely lose his standing in the Philippine gambling industry. Faced with their torment, Cha Mu-sik tried to negotiate, hoping to buy them off with a higher price. But they were unmoved, determined to eliminate him and even film the entire process. Just as they were about to make their move, a knock came at the door. The leader went to investigate and found Siok standing outside. Siok intended to take Cha Mu-sik away unharmed. He told the assassins, "This is Cha Mu-sik's territory in the Philippines. Even I don't dare breathe the same air as him. If anyone finds out you touched him, you won't make it back to Chairman Ko alive, let alone see the reward," she promised. "Why risk your lives for this? While you still can, get out of here." Siok demanded they hand Cha Mu-sik over to him. Thinking Siok had come to repay his debt, they complied. But instead, Siok drove to a river. There, he bid Cha Mu-sik a final farewell. He then shoved Cha Mu-sik back into the trunk, got in the car, started the engine, rolled up the windows, got out, and walked away. Reaching the back of the car, he gave it a hard shove, watching as it slowly sank into the river. Siok finally felt his anger subside. However, right after Siok left, members of the triads arrived. They jumped into the water and rescued Cha Mu-sik. It turned out they had been tracking Siok, seeking revenge for their previous encounter, and stumbled upon this scene by chance. Cha Mu-sik, having narrowly escaped death, showed no mercy. He ordered the triads to infest Siok's hotel room with venomous snakes. Waking up, Siok sensed something was amiss. He turned on the light and saw a venomous snake sink its fangs into his leg. He thrashed in terror, only to be confronted by a swarm of snakes under the bed. The sheer number of venomous snakes extinguished all hope. With Siok dealt with, it was time to find the assassins who had abducted Cha Mu-sik the previous night. They, having finished with Cha Mu-sik, were now out on the town with their crew. A scantily clad woman threw herself at the leader, and he readily took her up on the offer of a good time. His underlings followed, eager for the night's entertainment. As the leader lounged on a sofa and the woman presented the onstage entertainment, Cha Mu-sik unexpectedly called. Just as they thought he had miraculously survived, Cha Mu-sik descended from the second floor, a group of mercenaries with drawn pistols taking the mafia boss hostage. The thugs, certain of their impending doom, were surprised when Cha Mu-sik simply inquired about their identities and issued a verbal warning. He instructed them to relay a message to Chairman Ko. "Nobody messes with Cha Mu-sik on my turf. Consider the $200 million a lesson." Then, in a surprising display of mercy, he let them go. The following day, Cha Mu-sik attended an important party, Daniel's niece's birthday celebration. Daniel held significant political sway, having the power to decide the next president. Even the mayor, sitting across from him, could only deferentially agree. In Daniel's presence, Cha Mu-sik was a minor player. Daniel, in high spirits, immediately offered Cha Mu-sik a lucrative opportunity, collecting fees from the sand dredging operations in the Louvre district. Cha Mu-sik politely declined this simple yet profitable offer. Seeing this, the mayor tried to seize the opportunity for himself. However, a single look from Daniel silenced him. Like a child caught misbehaving, the mayor fell silent. Cha Mu-sik suggested you for the job. Daniel was taken aback by Cha Mu-sik's refusal. Who would turn down such a good deal? After dinner, you drove Cha Mu-sik back to his hotel. Before parting ways, you expressed his gratitude. He was used to doing Daniel's dirty work and would never dare ask for money to further his own business ventures. He was, therefore, grateful for Cha Mu-sik's endorsement. Unbeknownst to them, Sang-gu had filmed the entire exchange. Sang-gu knew you was the driver who had absconded with the $200 million. Now, watching the masked Sang-gu, everything finally clicked into place. Elsewhere, the wealthy second-generation heir, accompanied by Han Kai, visited Chairman Min's office. Their purpose was to force Chairman Min to relinquish 30% of the casino hotel's shares. The heir had previously lent Chairman Min $5.6 billion to invest in the hotel, but Chairman Min considered it a simple loan, especially since no share transfer agreement had been signed. He flatly refused their demand and sent them away. The two fired employees, feeling disgruntled, met at a barbecue restaurant to discuss plotting against Chairman Min. However, they were both wary of Cha Mu-sik, who was always by Chairman Min's side. The mere mention of Cha Mu-sik ignited fury in them. The restaurant owner, unafraid of trouble and sensing an opportunity for profit, overheard their scheming and readily offered her services. She claimed her husband was part of the mafia, capable of clean and efficient work, leaving no trace of evidence. Han Kai, initially just venting, was surprised when the second-generation rich kid Fu Er-dai took him seriously. The owner boasted a 20 million won all-inclusive price, while secretly intending to pocket half, as the job only required 10 million. The Fu Er-dai, on the spot, promised Han Kai a 10% stake in his business after the deed was done and offered the restaurant owner a corner of his casino to open a club. Thus, a three-way alliance was formed. A few days later, the restaurant owner indeed received a 10 million won remittance. Her husband took the money to the mayor's office. In reality, her husband wasn't a mafia member, but a low-level employee working for the mayor. The whole situation was orchestrated by the mayor himself, a trap designed to expose those plotting against him. The target wasn't Cha Mu-sik, but Chairman Min. As for Cha Mu-sik, they had a more sinister plan in mind. Meanwhile, Jeong Pal, a gambling addict, found himself in the throes of a devastating losing streak, racking up a $50 million debt at the Triad's casino. He initially intended to recoup his losses and quit, but his luck only worsened. As the dealer swept away his last borrowed chips, Cha Mu-sik arrived at the casino. Seeing Jeong Pal's disheveled state, Jeong Pal glanced at Cha Mu-sik, said nothing, pushed himself away from the table, and left the casino without looking back. Cha Mu-sik learned from the manager about Jeong Pal's $50 million loss. Looking at the Triad members present, Cha Mu-sik realized that Jeong Pal was in serious trouble. Jeong Pal, unwilling to accept defeat, returned to the casino and pulled out his credit chip. Cha Mu-sik rushed back to the casino and instructed the staff to give Jeong Pal all 30 million of his own chips held at the casino, telling them to let him gamble it all away if he wanted. Soon after, Jeong Pal lost everything. Deep in debt and despair, he sat by the roadside. Seeing Jeong Pal's crippling gambling debt, a furious Cha Mu-sik brought him back to Korea. It was the only way Cha Mu-sik could think of to protect Jeong Pal. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to leave once the triads found out. However, Sang-gu, unable to bear it any longer, approached Cha Mu-sik and revealed the reason behind Jeong Pal's gambling. It turned out Jeong Pal had been secretly conducting business with the triads and had suffered significant losses. He resorted to gambling in a desperate attempt to repay the debt. Back in Korea, Jeong Pal was reduced to helping out as a cashier at his mother's restaurant. Once a casino manager, now a humble restaurant worker, Jeong Pal couldn't adapt to this mundane and depressing life. He tearfully called Cha Mu-sik, begging him for help one last time. Other things are easy to handle, but the key is whether those triad members will give me face, Cha Mu-sik said, unable to offer any guarantees. So, he sought out a triad member to negotiate. He pulled Skinhead aside, explaining that Jeong Pal was like a brother to him, and pleaded with him not to cause Jeong Pal any further trouble. Skinhead replied that his words held little weight and that the matter ultimately rested with the boss. Through Skinhead's introduction, Cha Mu-sik met with their boss. Cha Mu-sik offered to pay off Jeong Pal's debt, but insisted on waiving the exorbitant interest. The triad boss, feeling pressured but mindful of Daniel's backing of Cha Mu-sik, reluctantly agreed to the unfair terms. He demanded that Jeong Pal repay the $40 million debt in 4 installments of $10 million each, over 4 months. Cha Mu-sik agreed. Finally, he emphasized, "He's my brother." The next day, Jeong Pal returned to the Philippines. However, Jeong Pal, emboldened by his reprieve, tested Cha Mu-sik, probing whether he would cover the entire debt. Seeing Jeong Pal still smiling, Cha Mu-sik became enraged. If this doesn't make Jeong Pal wake up, it seems he'll fall even harder later. Cha Mu-sik told Jeong Pal, "If you can't borrow the $10 million to make this payment, then jump off this 10-meter bridge. If you don't land in one piece, then your debt to the triads will be wiped clean." Terrified, Jeong Pal quickly claimed he had a way out, saying he could borrow the money from Kai Young. Despite the scolding, Jeong Pal called Kai Young, hoping he would lend him another $10 million for the sake of his career, swearing to repay him double later. Kai Young, having lost trust in Jeong Pal, refused. "But if Cha Mu-sik agrees to guarantee the loan, then I'm willing to help." Jeong Pal hung up and turned to Cha Mu-sik. "If you agree to vouch for me, I can borrow the money." Furious, Cha Mu-sik rebuked Jeong Pal. "How is this any different from me lending you the money directly?" Utterly humiliated and desperate, Jeong Pal slowly walked towards the overpass, claiming he hoped his death would bring Cha Mu-sik some peace. However, Cha Mu-sik, unmoved by his theatrics, started his car and drove away, leaving Jeong Pal alone in the wind, filled with regret. However, he secretly called Kai Young, saying he would guarantee Jeong Pal's loan, hoping to use this opportunity to help Jeong Pal start a new life. Thus, Jeong Pal successfully borrowed the money from Kai Young. With this money, Jeong Pal returned to the casino and worked diligently. Within a month, he attracted a large clientele, not only earning back the money he borrowed from Kai Young, but also saving a considerable amount. Despite Cha Mu-sik's repeated reminders for Jeong Pal to repay Kai Young on time, Jeong Pal constantly made excuses, shirking his responsibility with no intention of repaying the loan. So, Cha Mu-sik brought him to his office and delivered a swift kick. Soon after, Kai Young received a transfer notification from Jeong Pal. Cha Mu-sik told Jeong Pal, "The difference between a crook and a businessman is credibility. What you're doing now is being a scoundrel. Never treat the trust others place in you as your overdraft capital. The biggest bastard in this world is someone who takes advantage of others' love and kindness without shame. This kind of scum will eventually be despised by everyone and ultimately lose their place in the world forever." With that, Cha Mu-sik left the office. But the following day, a man in sunglasses broke into Chairman Min's office and opened fire. The billionaire casino owner was shot dead. Looking at the body on the bed, Cha Mu-sik couldn't hold back his tears. 15 years ago, if it weren't for Chairman Min's generous help, Cha Mu-sik might still be a real gambler. At the funeral, Cha Mu-sik grieved deeply, vowing to find Chairman Min's killer and avenge his boss, unaware that the killer was, at that very moment, sitting at the funeral. A guilt-ridden Hun Kai called the Fu-er-dai aside. He berated him for his reckless actions. "Our original assassination target was Cha Mu-sik, who controls the Bond Casino. Why is Chairman Min the one who ended up dead?" The Fu Dai scoffed at Hun Kai as if he were clueless. Upon hearing this, Hun Kai hastily shirked responsibility, saying, "I don't care about the casino hotel shares. I just want to keep my government job." Despite his words, that evening, he accompanied the Fu Dai to Chairman Min's office, attempting to swap the casino share contract in the safe with a forged one. However, they realized they had forgotten the safe's combination. Just as they were stumped, a female employee entered. The two quickly hid. It turned out the employee had been entrusted by Cha Mu-sik to retrieve contract information from the safe. At that moment, the Fu Dai had an idea, surreptitiously slipping the forged contract into the files. After completing their scheme, the two framed Cha Mu-sik for Chairman Min's murder. Hun Kai rushed to the Philippine National Bureau of Investigation (NBI) and delivered a report implicating Cha Mu-sik as the killer. Furthermore, he fabricated a petition from Korean residents opposing Cha Mu-sik, depicting him as an extremist terrorist who enjoyed government protection, a truly wicked criminal. Simultaneously, the Fu Dai arranged a meeting with Cha Mu-sik. He produced a copy of a share certificate supposedly issued before Chairman Min's death, claiming ownership of 40% of the Kali's casino and demanding to take over as the largest shareholder. However, Chairman Min's secretary immediately identified the certificate as a forgery. The signing date on the document is the day Chairman Min was undergoing an appendectomy at the hospital. He had no time to sign any contracts. Just then, Cha Mu-sik received a call from the chief of police, informing him that the NBI had issued a warrant for his arrest for the murder of Chairman Min. Coupled with widespread media coverage in the Philippines denouncing Cha Mu-sik as a ruthless and ungrateful traitor, the situation was rapidly deteriorating. Cha Mu-sik immediately called Daniel. Daniel explained that the media had blown the situation out of proportion and that there was little he could do. He advised Cha Mu-sik to go into hiding and return after the storm had subsided. Unwilling to accept being wrongly accused, Cha Mu-sik contacted Seung-hoon, wanting to meet and explain his side of the story. At the meeting place, Cha Mu-sik insisted on his innocence. He explained that the Fu Dai must have tampered with Chairman Min's safe, planting the forged Kali's casino ownership documents. Because the relationship between the Fu Dai and Chairman Min was very bad, it's highly likely that the incident stemmed from a dispute over the casino's profits. Now they want to pin all the blame on me. Moreover, Hun Kai at the consulate is in cahoots with the Fu Dai. They're working together to frame me. Just as Seung-hoon was assessing the truth of Cha Mu-sik's words, the NBI surrounded the church, swiftly overpowering the security personnel. Witnessing this, the chief of police immediately alerted Cha Mu-sik. Realizing he had been betrayed, Cha Mu-sik was forced to flee the church. After the detectives from the investigative bureau arrived at the scene, Cha Mu-sik had vanished. The captain was furious with Seung-hoon's inaction. It was clear, however, that Seung-hoon hadn't betrayed Cha Mu-sik. The three men whose plan had fallen apart gathered again to strategize. To lure Cha Mu-sik out into the open, they devised another dirty scheme. They found an actor, Dennis, to pose as a casino investor. Cha Mu-sik knew Dennis was a good friend of Daniel's. Dennis claimed that North Korea's supreme leader, Kim Jong-un, planned to build a casino in Pyongyang exclusively for foreigners. They had supposedly received an invitation to collaborate, and hoped Cha Mu-sik would join them in the investment. Cha Mu-sik was skeptical, but agreed to attend the meeting. However, Cha Mu-sik was unaware that he was walking into a trap. Despite receiving a prior warning from his informant, he was apprehended by the National Intelligence Service at the hotel. Caught red-handed, Cha Mu-sik feigned a heart attack to avoid being taken into custody. As a result, he was confined to a hospital for treatment. From his hospital bed, Cha Mu-sik called Daniel. Daniel assured him that everything was arranged. There would be a security lapse that night, allowing Cha Mu-sik to escape. But Cha Mu-sik refused. "I can run for a while, but not forever." He asked Daniel to extradite him to South Korea to face trial on lesser charges, serve a few years, and then be released. Before his extradition, local policy required a press conference announcing the transfer. The following day, Cha Mu-sik attended the press conference. Faced with inane questions from the reporters, he responded with meaningless platitudes. On the day of his extradition, the local mayor dispatched a special task force to escort him, solely to ensure his safe arrival on the plane. Cha Mu-sik remained unfazed by the arrest. Upon entering the terminal, he requested that his handcuffs be removed. The security officer retrieved the key and was about to unlock them when the bald-headed captain in charge of the escort intervened. The security officer explained that his duty was complete. The bald-headed captain was speechless. The officer brushed him aside, unlocked the handcuffs, and Cha Mu-sik, now free, arrogantly settled onto a sofa and began inquiring about the repatriation plan arranged by the South Korean government. Upon learning that his ticket was economy class, Cha Mu-sik expressed his displeasure. "This is my glorious return after 15 years. I should at least have a first-class seat." He pulled out a wad of cash and upgraded everyone's tickets to first class. Then he instructed the security captain to buy 100 cups of coffee and 100 lunch boxes to provide a meal for all the security officers who had been guarding him. With that, Cha Mu-sik stood up, preparing to take a sauna at the airport, leaving the dumbfounded officers in his wake. Upon Cha Mu-sik's arrival in South Korea, he was greeted by a throng of Korean reporters who had been waiting. The Cha Mu-sik saga had captivated the entire nation. Fortunately, the person who came to pick him up was his childhood friend, Dong Hein, a police captain in charge of investigating Cha Mu-sik's case. Dong Hein took Cha Mu-sik to a restaurant for a long-awaited meal of pork intestine stew. They reminisced, sharing sighs over past events. It was then that Cha Mu-sik asked Dong Hein for a favor. Following protocol, Cha Mu-sik was taken to prison for observation, but a dramatic scene unfolded. The inmates, known for their ferocity and ruthlessness, bowed their heads in respect upon hearing of Cha Mu-sik's arrival. Even before his incarceration, Cha Mu-sik's reputation had preceded him within the prison walls. Dong Hein quickly gathered crucial information. Based on Cha Mu-sik's description of the suspect, Dong Hein discovered that the barbecue restaurant owner had received 2 wire transfers of $10 million each after Chairman Min's death. The sender was none other than second-generation Rich Fu-er-dai. Recalling second-generation Rich's forged share contract, Cha Mu-sik immediately concluded that he was the one responsible for Chairman Min's demise. Cha Mu-sik presented his findings to the Korean prosecutor. The chief prosecutor was puzzled as to why Cha Mu-sik hadn't given this information to the Philippine police. Cha Mu-sik explained that second-generation Rich's protector was Hun Kai from the consulate. They had colluded with the local police to obstruct the investigation. He had no choice but to return to Korea to avoid danger. The court date arrived quickly. The prosecution, after hearing testimony from all parties, swiftly cleared Cha Mu-sik of the shooting charge. However, due to a violent assault he committed 14 years prior, a violation of social norms, he was ultimately sentenced to 1 year in prison. The sentence was suspended for a year, effectively resulting in an acquittal. Second-generation Rich panicked upon hearing the news. Cha Mu-sik's return to the Philippines would jeopardize his plan to seize control of the Kali's casino shares. Hun Kai arrived late, urging them not to panic, as he had placed Cha Mu-sik on a permanent entry ban list for the Philippines. Unbeknownst to them, Cha Mu-sik, now a free man, began his plan for revenge. The Philippine police located the gunman responsible for Chairman Min's death, even though he had been a patsy framed to implicate Cha Mu-sik. Despite being cleared, the Philippine media continued to hound Cha Mu-sik. In the end, he resorted to bribery to silence them. He spent a considerable sum to pay off 17 newspapers. He instructed Jeong Pal to access the safe in the underground warehouse. Jeong Pal opened it to find stacks of cash and gold. He took $10 million to bribe the media as a public relations expense, in exchange for their agreement not to report on Cha Mu-sik's return to the Philippines for 5 years. Furthermore, Daniel had already petitioned high-ranking government officials to overturn the embassy's permanent entry ban against Cha Mu-sik. Upon returning to the Philippines, Cha Mu-sik sent a message to the 3 men. Terrified, second-generation Rich immediately booked a flight and fled back to Korea. Hun Kai was summoned by the embassy. It turned out his mistreatment of overseas Koreans had been reported to the Blue House, the Korean presidential office. The Blue House dismissed him from his consular position and ordered him back to Korea for investigation. Having dealt with these 2 obstacles, Cha Mu-sik returned to the casino he had built, a place filled with memories of his hardships and dreams. To his dismay, he found it mismanaged and in disarray under Jeong Pal's leadership. The number of patrons had decreased by 1/3. Cha Mu-sik was about to confront Jeong Pal. but Jiang Pal appeared uneasy and unwelcoming of his return. Muttering about having things to do, he quickly fled the scene. It turned out that while Cha Mu-sik was away, Jiang Pal had befriended a new, arrogant rising figure named Yang Sang-soo. After hearing of Cha Mu-sik's return from Jiang Pal, Yang Sang-soo wanted to meet Cha Mu-sik for a confrontation. Moments later, Yang Sang-soo called Cha Mu-sik. Upon hearing that someone wanted to challenge him, Cha Mu-sik immediately rushed to the designated location. The waiter informed him that Yang Sang-soo had left. Feeling tricked, Cha Mu-sik searched the vicinity and soon found Yang Sang-soo in a corner of the restaurant. Cha Mu-sik sat down and subtly pulled a gun from his pocket, concealing it under a napkin. This startled Yang Sang-soo, who nervously laughed to diffuse the tension, claiming he'd had too much to drink the previous night and had spoken out of turn. Just then, Yang Sang-soo's men arrived. However, the seasoned Cha Mu-sik, unfazed by this tactic, retorted, "When I was making my way in the world, you were still wearing diapers. Don't interrupt when adults are talking." Yang Sang-soo, realizing his disadvantage, dismissed his men. Cha Mu-sik, acknowledging Yang Sang-soo's first-time offense, delivered a brief reprimand and let him go. With that matter settled, Cha Mu-sik, aiming to revive the Bon Casino, instructed Sang-gu to gather all the casino managers and encourage them to openly discuss their difficulties. The manager's supervisor revealed that Jiang Pal had shown favoritism and prioritized his own interests. Under his management, the casino's business had naturally declined. The basic commission wasn't enough to sustain them, and they were considering moving to more lucrative casinos. Upon hearing this, Cha Mu-sik increased the commission rate to 1.8%, the highest in the industry, and implemented a performance bonus system. He then pulled out a large sum of cash and distributed it as a starting bonus. The Bon Casino quickly returned to its former glory. Meanwhile, Cha Mu-sik continued his independent investigation into Chairman Min's murder. He instructed Sang-gu to retrieve the surveillance footage from the barbecue restaurant owner, who had received a large sum of money around the time of the assassination, likely a payment for the hit. The footage was delivered to Cha Mu-sik. Sang-gu, puzzled by Cha Mu-sik's actions, was told, "I'll tell you when I have concrete evidence." As Sang-gu turned to leave, Cha Mu-sik called him back and declared him his chosen successor, recognizing that Jiang Pal lacked the necessary capabilities. Cha Mu-sik spent the night poring over the evidence. Suddenly, Jiang Pal called him to the casino, pleading for help for a friend. Before he could elaborate, heavily armed police stormed the casino and arrested Jiang Pal for illegal possession of funds. It turned out that Jiang Pal's friend was wanted by Interpol and had fled to the Philippines seeking his help. Jiang Pal had initially sought assistance from Yang Sang-soo, but he proved useless. Now, his only recourse was to beg Cha Mu-sik for help. Jiang Pal had received money from his friend, leading the Philippine police to consider him an accomplice, and he was subsequently arrested. Cha Mu-sik, witnessing the scene unfold, was unaware of the details. He called the police chief and learned that at least 8 agencies were pursuing Jiang Pal on charges, including illegal gambling and 2 counts of fraud. Faced with an Interpol red notice, even Cha Mu-sik was powerless to intervene. The next day, Cha Mu-sik visited Jiang Pal in jail. Jiang Pal cried for his mother, saying he truly knew he was wrong. Cha Mu-sik took this to heart. He immediately went to find Daniel. Cha Mu-sik had never asked Daniel for anything for himself, but this time he spoke up for Jiang Pal. Daniel found this strange. Why was Cha Mu-sik helping Jiang Pal so much? Cha Mu-sik repeated his usual phrase, "He's like a brother to me." Under Daniel's direction, Jiang Pal was quickly released. He immediately took his friend to thank Cha Mu-sik. Cha Mu-sik calmly handed Jiang Pal's friend a new ID card, telling him to leave the Philippines as soon as possible. Jiang Pal's friend promised to repay the $2 billion subsidy into Cha Mu-sik's account, but Cha Mu-sik, having no intention of accepting any reward, refused him. He had done it all just to save Jiang Pal. However, Jiang Pal turned around and used Cha Mu-sik's name to claim the reward money for himself. From this moment on, Jiang Pal's true nature was revealed. Meanwhile, Cha Mu-sik was still investigating Chairman Min's case. His hard work paid off. He found a crucial person on the surveillance camera. 4 people were gathered at a dining table, and among them was the white-haired man who had attended the tax chief's birthday party with Cha Mu-sik. To clarify the conspiracy, Cha Moo-sik called the second-generation Kibol, who had returned to Korea, asking him to come back to the Philippines for a meeting. The second-generation Kibol agreed superficially, but he didn't dare return to the Philippines. As the two hastily departed, they didn't notice they were already being targeted by Cha Moo-sik's men. On another front, Sang-gu began to take action. He secretly sought out Officer Seung-hoon, providing a crucial clue in So-young and Philip's case. Producing a photo of you he had taken at the hotel entrance, Sang-gu said. When So-young and Philip were killed, this man was seen taking away $200 million in cash. He's also the person always with Cha Moo-sik. The mastermind behind this must be Cha Moo-sik. Seung-hoon was skeptical. A single photo can't be used as evidence. Previously, Seung-hoon had reviewed the surveillance footage, but the crucial parts had been cut and deleted. Unless Sang-gu could find the missing video footage, it wouldn't be enough. Sang-gu's motivation stemmed solely from Philip being his brother. Elsewhere, the bar owner cautiously entered the barbecue restaurant, only to discover the surveillance camera was missing. She immediately panicked. This hitman job has definitely been exposed. That evening, a figure flashed past the door, and she assumed it was someone sent by Cha Moo-sik for revenge. She quickly grabbed her gun from the drawer and fired at the door. But no one appeared. She collapsed on the floor, sobbing. After investigating, Cha Moo-sik discovered that the mastermind behind Chairman Min's murder was most likely the mayor, and the tax chief seen in the camera footage was merely a pawn. To uncover the truth, Cha Moo-sik told you everything, hoping he would help him deal with the person who harmed Chairman Min. However, when you learned that the person Cha Moo-sik wanted to deal with was the mayor, he said he needed to consult with Daniel. You was afraid to eliminate the mayor, not because of his position, but because the mayor was a close relative of Daniel. Daniel had warned you never to touch his family, or there would be consequences. Therefore, if Cha Moo-sik dared to touch the mayor, it would be a direct challenge to Daniel. Despite this, Cha Moo-sik was determined to avenge Chairman Min. One morning, Jeong Pal, in a daze at a slot machine, received a call from the nursing home where So-young's mother resided. So-young's mother had passed away. The nursing home couldn't reach So-young, so they called Jeong Pal. Despite being cheated on by So-young, he still loved her deeply. Every year, he would place flowers on So-young's grave and speak words of remembrance. Meanwhile, Officer Seung-hoon received the video Sang-gu sent. It was footage from inside the barbecue restaurant on the day Chairman Min was murdered. It turned out Sang-gu had made a copy. Following the previous money transfer records, the police also confirmed that the individuals in the video had hired assassins to eliminate someone. Thus, arrest warrants were issued, starting with the barbecue restaurant owner. However, on the day of the arrest, Seung-hoon learned from a colleague that the restaurant owner had disappeared, and there were gunshot marks on the door. Upon learning this, Seung-hoon immediately messaged Sang-gu, demanding he reveal Cha Moo-sik's current location. He suspected Cha Moo-sik was involved in the owner's disappearance. Unbeknownst to Seung-hoon, Cha Moo-sik was also unaware of the owner's whereabouts. He even took Sang-gu to the barbecue restaurant to look for her. Seung-hoon arrived at the scene shortly after. He immediately confronted Cha Moo-sik, warning him not to do anything dangerous. Cha Moo-sik was taken aback. He clearly had no vulnerabilities that the police could exploit. Before leaving, Seung-hoon remarked to Sang-gu, "You two should have dinner together sometime." These words made Cha Moo-sik wary. He immediately questioned Sang-gu, asking if he had betrayed him and colluded with the police. However, Sang-gu replied, "Seung-hoon is clearly trying to drive a wedge between us." Cha Moo-sik told Sang-gu to look him in the eye and speak. Finally, Cha Moo-sik tentatively believed him. To find out who harmed Chairman Min, Cha Moo-sik sent men to find the tax chief that evening. Coincidentally, the tax chief was packing to flee. He was cornered by Cha Moo-sik's men as soon as he got into his car. Cha Moo-sik demanded the tax chief answer his questions, threatening to send him to hell if he refused. The terrified tax chief trembled and confessed that the mayor was behind everything. He resented Daniel's favoritism towards Cha Moo-sik, and the reason for killing Chairman Min was simply because someone had commissioned a hit on him, so he took advantage of the opportunity. Afterwards, Cha Moo-sik had the mayor kidnapped and interrogated him about why he eliminated Chairman Min. The mayor remained defiant, relying on his kinship with Daniel as assurance that Cha Moo-sik wouldn't dare to act rashly. He even brought up the matter of Cha Mu-sik pocketing the $200 million from the client, arrogantly threatening to expose him. Upon hearing this, Cha Mu-sik completely snapped, ordering his men to douse the mayor with gasoline. The arrogant mayor finally understood what fear truly felt like. For 10 years, Cha Mu-sik went from an unknown to a casino tycoon, but his survival always depended on others. This time, he wanted to take control of his own destiny. He would absolutely not allow anyone else to hold his fate in their hands. Enraged, he lit a match, sending the mayor to hell. Watching the mayor scream and writhe in flames, Cha Mu-sik understood the price of revenge. Next, he would have to face Daniel's furious retaliation. Within a day, Daniel discovered the mayor's disappearance. He immediately ordered Yu to search the Philippine underground network. He suspected Cha Mu-sik, but Yu claimed, "Cha Mu-sik hasn't said anything to me, and he doesn't know anything about the mayor's disappearance." However, as soon as Yu left the room, he immediately called Cha Mu-sik, urging him to flee the Philippines and return to Korea. Daniel has put a multi-million-dollar hit on you in the black market. Sensing danger, Cha Mu-sik called Jeong Pao, asking, "How much does Chairman H. Wang still owe the casino?" Jeong Pao replied, "After Chairman H. Wang lost all his money, he returned home. He's probably resting in a hotel somewhere." However, Cha Mu-sik wasn't concerned about Chairman H. Wang's situation. He just needed a reason to quickly return to Korea and evade Daniel's pursuit. After the call, Cha Mu-sik immediately took action, returning to Korea without a moment's delay. Knowing Cha Mu-sik had returned to Korea, Sang-gu went to his room that night and sat at the computer, tirelessly searching for video footage of Philip's murder scene. However, he found nothing. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Sang-gu suddenly felt uneasy. Could it be Cha Mu-sik? As he prepared to leave, he heard noises coming from the basement. He cautiously descended, only to find Jeong Pao. Jeong Pao handed him a passport and a video from the safe. The passport belonged to Philip and So-young. Cha Mu-sik was indeed the mastermind behind Philip and So-young's murders. This evidence is enough to have him extradited and investigated. As soon as he finished speaking, they discovered a large amount of cash and gold inside the safe. Seeing the safe overflowing with money, Jeong Pao became almost delirious with excitement. Meanwhile, Cha Mu-sik was in Korea reminiscing with his close friends, cherishing this brief, beautiful moment. He was unaware of the impending crisis brewing both internally and externally. Over the next few days, Jeong Pao carried billions in cash with him everywhere. Furthermore, Sang-gu immediately handed the evidence over to Officer Seung-hoon, hoping he would arrest Cha Mu-sik as soon as possible. However, before arresting Cha Mu-sik, Seung-hoon needed to apprehend all the suspects involved in Chairman Min's case. With solid evidence in hand, Seung-hoon first obtained a deportation order from the local immigration bureau for the barbecue restaurant owner, revoking her passport. As she boarded the plane, Seung-hoon legally arrested her. Meanwhile, the second-generation Kibal and Hun Kai, who had fled to Korea, were also arrested by Korean police on suspicion of Chairman Min's murder. So far, all those involved in Chairman Min's murder had paid the price. However, Cha Mu-sik, having fled back to Korea to escape Daniel's pursuit, was oblivious to the events unfolding in the Philippines. Cha Mu-sik was at home, enjoying his mother's kimchi. He held his wife's hand, thanking her for her years of devoted service to the family. He planned to move his family to Australia, but the process required a substantial amount of money. Through an associate, Cha Mu-sik was introduced to Kang Run. Kang Run operated an online gambling business in Japan and was looking to launder $60 billion of ill-gotten gains through the Philippines. Such a large sum could fill about 60 Apple boxes. Cha Mu-sik requested an 8% handling fee. Kang Run didn't dare object and agreed, even leaving a $500 million deposit as a sign of good faith. Faced with such a novel transaction, Cha Mu-sik remained uncertain. He called Dong Hein, hoping he could investigate Kang Run's background. The day of the transaction arrived quickly. Kang Run showed up with a large truck, supposedly filled with 60 billion won in cash. Just as he was about to open the back, claiming it contained 60 billion won packed in boxes, Cha Mu-sik instructed his men to inspect the contents. Kang Run, however, kept urging Cha Mu-sik to quickly transfer the 60 billion to his account, raising suspicion. To be safe, Cha Mu-sik ordered his men to unload and check each box. To their surprise, the boxes were filled with nothing but blank paper. As Cha Mu-sik reacted, he was struck from behind and knocked unconscious. His men were then locked inside the truck. Satisfied with the outcome, Kang Run ordered his men to clean up the scene and drove away. Cha Mu-sik regained consciousness groggily and, seizing an opportunity, grabbed a rock and knocked out the remaining guard. He then learned from another thug that Chairman Ko was behind the scheme. Cha Mu-sik immediately confronted Chairman Ko, accepting full responsibility for the $200 million debt. Consider this lesson learned. I hope Chairman Ko won't play any more tricks. We can always sit down and talk things through. With the matter seemingly resolved, Cha Mu-sik left with his men. Chairman Ko excitedly called Kang Run, urging him to leave Cha Mu-sik alone. A debt as large as $200 million is impossible for Cha Mu-sik to repay right now. However, as soon as Cha Mu-sik returned home, he received a call from Daniel. Daniel feigned concern, inviting Cha Mu-sik back to the Philippines for a meal, suggesting their misunderstanding had been resolved. But the scene cut to a badly beaten Yu, kneeling on the ground. Daniel revealed his true intentions. The phone call was a ruse to lure Cha Mu-sik back to the Philippines. Unaware of the situation, Cha Mu-sik naively believed Daniel had forgiven him for harming his relative. Soon, Cha Mu-sik returned to the Philippines. However, upon disembarking the plane, he spotted a bruised and battered Yu. Immediately on guard, Cha Mu-sik pretended to be in the restroom. To confirm his suspicions, he called out tentatively, "Is that you?" This alerted Yu to the fact that Cha Mu-sik had seen his condition. He frantically searched for Cha Mu-sik in the crowd and, upon spotting him, gave chase. Fortunately, Cha Mu-sik managed to escape in a taxi, narrowly avoiding a grim fate. Cha Mu-sik planned to return to his villa to retrieve the hundreds of billions of dollars stashed there and flee. However, he discovered the front door had been forced open. Cautiously wielding a golf club, he entered the basement only to find the safe empty. The cash and gold bars were gone. Enraged, he grabbed his pistol and drove to the beach. Hunted and alone, he lamented the failure of over a decade of work, wiping away tears as he stood on the sand. He recalled Jeong Pal's words, "Flowers never last forever." Just as Cha Mu-sik was despairing about how to recover, Kang Run contacted him. It turned out Kang Run was also in the Philippines. He proposed a partnership, suggesting Cha Mu-sik manage his assets, using untraceable cryptocurrency for transactions. He planned to create a virtual online casino where players could bet using their keyboards while watching a live stream. Cha Mu-sik's role would be to operate a real casino in the Philippines as the basis for this system. Kang Run promised profits hundreds of times greater than a traditional casino and offered Cha Mu-sik a 50% share. He required Cha Mu-sik to provide 20 gambling tables, each with a $3 billion deposit. Faced with this potential opportunity, Cha Mu-sik was tempted, but he lacked the funds for even a single table deposit. Desperate, he called Jeong Pal, instructing him to retrieve the $30 million he had stashed at the Bon Casino. Looking at the hundreds of billions in cash and gold bars, Jeong Pal fell into deep thought. Meanwhile, Seung Hoon successfully apprehended 3 individuals and, armed with an arrest warrant, arrived at the Bon Casino to arrest Cha Mu-sik. However, he was informed that Cha Mu-sik wasn't there. Disappointed, he received a call from Sang-gu revealing Cha Mu-sik's exact location. Sang-gu urged the police to act swiftly. Unbeknownst to them, Yu was secretly observing the entire exchange. He then stealthily followed Seung Hoon. Jeong Pal and Sang-gu also set out. Before departing, however, Sang-gu opened the car door and handed Jeong Pal a pistol. The two then proceeded to Cha Mu-sik's hideout. At the hideout, Cha Mu-sik was cheerfully preparing lunch, invigorated by Kang Run's offer and the prospect of a comeback. He had prepared a delicious meal, intending to share the good news with Jeong Pal. Soon, Jeong Pal and Sang-gu arrived. Seeing Sang-gu, Cha Mu-sik became slightly apprehensive, questioning his presence. Jeong Pal retrieved the $30 million from the car trunk, Cha Mu-sik's last hope for reversing his fortunes. After entering the house, the 3 men sat down to talk. Cha Mu-sik, never lacking courage, told them about being hunted by Daniel. "I'm currently in the process of liquidating my assets," he explained, asking Jeong Pal and Sang-gu to manage the casino. "Don't worry," he assured them, "I'll be back on top soon." He boasted about his 15 years in the Philippines, declaring he wouldn't be easily defeated. However, at that very moment, Seung-hoon and the police were stealthily approaching the house, with Yu trailing close behind, intent on bringing Cha Moo-sik back to Daniel. Seung-hoon's men, wearing bulletproof vests, split up and surrounded the house. As Cha Moo-sik poured drinks, he noticed something strange about Sang-goo's expression. Looking towards the window, he sensed trouble and stared intently at Sang-goo. Suddenly, Seung-hoon burst through the door, gun aimed at Cha Moo-sik. Cha Moo-sik attempted to resist but was quickly disarmed, leaving him no choice but to surrender. Witnessing Sang-goo's betrayal, Cha Moo-sik was speechless. However, as Seung-hoon began to read Cha Moo-sik his rights, Yu suddenly attacked from behind. Hearing gunshots, everyone scattered. However, the police officers, having consumed dalgona candy, were stuck in pools of strawberry syrup. Seung-hoon furiously dragged Cha Moo-sik from the scene. Just then, Yu attacked from outside, firing multiple shots at Seung-hoon. Both Seung-hoon and Cha Moo-sik were hit, and they both collapsed to the ground. Seeing his opportunity, Sang-goo immediately got up and fired repeatedly at Yu, ultimately killing him. At this point, a severely weakened Cha Moo-sik, summoning his remaining strength, picked up Seung-hoon's gun and eliminated the traitorous Sang-goo. Staggering to his feet, Cha Moo-sik uttered, "Farewell, my friend," before succumbing to his injuries. He closed his eyes, having witnessed the deaths of his comrades, unable to comprehend how things had reached this point. Jeong-pal, hiding behind a cabinet, emerged trembling before him. Cha Moo-sik raised his gun, aiming it at Jeong-pal. However, Jeong-pal feigned vulnerability, and Cha Moo-sik, perhaps seeing him as the last vestige of Chairman Min's legacy, couldn't bring himself to pull the trigger. Instead, he instructed Jeong-pal to gather the money and prepare to leave. Jeong-pal grabbed 2 bags of money, but as Cha Moo-sik opened the car door, Jeong-pal shot him in the head. Showing no remorse, Jeong-pal quickly got into the car and fled the scene. Cha Moo-sik died at the hands of the person he trusted most. Just as Jeong-pal had said, flowers don't last forever. No matter how beautiful a flower is, one day it will wither. 6 months passed. Seung-hoon, having recovered from his critical injuries and returned to Korea, was now in charge of cracking down on cross-border online gambling crimes. Online casinos using cryptocurrency for betting transactions were generating hundreds of billions of dollars in daily revenue. The operator of this online casino was none other than Kang Run, the man who had propositioned Cha Moo-sik. A high roller from Las Vegas arrived to invest in the casino. He was Korean, and it was the traitor, Jeong-pal.